Hey all, a nice day here. Just wanted to do a showcase of my Twosun knives, instead of doing a review of all of them or anything like that, and just talk about Twosun in general because they have an interesting business model. Their model is that they sell on White Mountain Knives, and they also sell on Amazon, and they are more appropriately priced and usually where you're gonna find them. You can get them quicker through those sites and everything, but they sell primarily, I think, through eBay, and they auction them. So you can get really good prices on these knives, which I've done quite a bit on these knives. On these specific knives, I guess. But there's a catch. They put out a lot of knives and a lot of different models, and I think that because they just move forward with getting them out, they don't always refine the piece as much or the design as much as necessarily is optimal. So you occasionally get flaws or weird little aspects that just aren't executed maybe the way they should be. This is not one of those cases. This is a wonderful knife. This is 14C28N, titanium, clamshell construction, great blade shape, larger size. Well, not quite a large knife, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of a large knife, isn't it? I think it's 3.75 almost on the dot. Super thin, great knife. This one doesn't really have a flaw. So it's not a good example at all. So I'm going to put it down. But you oftentimes get little flubs, let's call them, out of Twosun. This one, for example, Twosun loves their detent ramps, which results in, the old double clutch, where it's not on the face of the blade, it's not open, it's just sort of wiggling here. Sometimes it kicks back open, and you're kind of stuck forcing itself back open. This one's okay. In fact, I can get past it on this one. But everything else, I mean, again, 14C28 and budget steel, titanium, contoured titanium, carbon fiber that's been contoured, excellently finished. Really great. Great detent, great everything. But I think with Twosun, if you're going to buy them, you just have to... I mean, look at this plunge grind. Why can't they do that on all their knives? That plunge grind drops almost completely down. It's almost just... This is all life. And that's the thing. They are inconsistent from model to model. The quality is on average pretty good. In my experience, actually pretty high. I don't think I've had too many problems with any of these knives except for one. And 1 out of 12 is fine. But they roll with designs instead of sort of making them themselves have a brand identity. They just roll with the designs they get, because they get it from a bunch of different designers. They have this guy. I don't know who that is. Is it Mazwan Mukhtar? They have Night Morning, Jelly Jerry, Tepe, some in-house stuff, all over the place. And I think they just roll with the designs that they're given instead of being like, hey, we need to execute this consistently, or need to figure out how to not do this, or, oh, these flippers shouldn't have this, etc., etc. Like this one has a light detent, very light detent. And because the flipper tab's so low to the pivot, and you have this weird, for some reason, angle that slopes up, you lose a lot of your leverage. So it's not a very satisfying flip. Everything else about this knife is pretty darn awesome. Pretty darn great. Super, super comfortable. Clamshell. But it's got that little funny flaw. And that's kind of what you get with Twosun. You're taking a risk if you don't see anything immediately. There's still potential, but you can usually alleviate some of that by paying attention. For example, this knife. I don't love, I despise their pivot collars that they occasionally use. I have it on 2 knives only, and I only got this one because this is one of the first times they use crystal tie, and I just kind of wanted to see how they did with it. This one was one of the first knives I bought from Twosun. In fact, I think it was the first knife I bought from Twosun. I didn't even notice the pivot collar at first. This was like 5-6 years ago. I don't like the pivot collar at all. I don't like Demco's pivot collar when it says all that crap on their pivot collar. But the flaw on this one is the thumb studs. They're super pointy, super sharp. They work, sure. But they're tight to the scale, and they're not super fun to engage with. In fact, can you see right at the top there? It left an indent on my finger. Not super fun. Otherwise, pretty cool, pretty good knife. But needs a better plunge grind. But that's another thing. You're going to see, as I said, they go with whatever design, so you're going to get great plunge grinds. You're going to get terrible plunge grinds. That seems to be a theme with a lot of companies, unfortunately. So I'm not knocking them too hard for that, but knowing that they can do it wonderfully, and knowing that they can do it... No, that one's good. This is integral, by the way. Thick. Doesn't have a lot of room to drop. It's thick behind the edge. This is an early Model Twosun. I don't remember which one it is, but a lot of the earlier Model Twosuns, just for your information if you want to look, the lower numbers tend to have a few more design flaws or thick blade in general. It's just the way they started out. Don't know why. But this one gets really thick up to the tip, and it's reasonably thin back here. As you can see, the tip is chunky. But this is an integral. I got this for like $89 off of eBay. You can't beat that. Let's be honest. That's insane for an integral that normally would cost. The Twosun integrals on websites that have them pre-priced are still $200+, and for any other brand's integrals, you're paying $350, $400 easy. And this is a good knife. Got a weird grind, but other than that, it's a really good knife. And that's the kind of value and the weird, but at the same time, the weirdness that Twosun offers. You're getting something, but sometimes you can pay for it in other areas. So I really just wanted to showcase what ones were in my own personal collection and sort of talk about things you have to be aware of when you're going for these knives, because they are different. They exist almost in a different space. It's hard to compare this brand to any other brand. Their business model is different. And sometimes you get great, sometimes you get nonsense. So just be aware when you're looking at them, is what I'm trying to say. This is a big full-size knife, and one of the hardest... This is a budget knife. I got this thing for like $30. One of the hardest kicking knives I have ever experienced. That thing rockets itself out of there. And it hits really hard. But you got a super tall clip with not flat screws. If you choke up here, you're fine. But if you go a little bit further back, you're really quite uncomfortable because you're standing up tall. It's just weird things like that. That's like, oh, they should have caught this. I think a greater percentage of other companies, or I should say, other companies would have a greater percentage of times where they do catch it. Civivi, for example. Even they let things through and have little funkiness every now and then on different things like that. But yeah, it's just a risky run, I think. So that's all I really wanted to say. Just a quick little look at the Twosun knives I have and talk about what they are and their business model, and the fact that they do offer premium materials for potentially really good prices on eBay. So just look into them a little bit. That's all. Dog's back. He's always back. He never left. Yes, I see you. Okay, that's it. See ya. Thanks for watching.